Okay, I just want to do a quick video addressing some arguments that I'm seeing in response to the atrociously low audience score on Rotten Tomatoes with regards to this past season of Doctor Who. The main argument that I've been seeing from people on Doctor Who Hub and other Facebook pages, people defending this, is that it's only 6,000 people out of millions of viewers. That's true, but the score on Rotten Tomatoes is an aggregate score. It's a percentage. So, and when you have a sampling size as large as 6,000 people, you have a reasonably accurate percentage. Now, if you enlarge the sampling size, let's say to 1,000,000 people, the number is obviously going to fluctuate some. It may drop to less, or it may go up a couple of points. It may fluctuate between 2 to 3 points. So let's be generous and say that it goes up 3 points and it's to 25%. Okay, but it's only 5,000 people or it's only 6,000 people argument. People who make that argument don't understand how percentages work, because even if you went out and got the opinion of every viewer that saw the season of Doctor Who worldwide, you're still going to end up with that. You're still going to end up with that difference. It's going to be roughly 25% approved and 75% disapproved. Okay, because 26% is 26% regardless of your sampling size. If 1,000,000 people get on Rotten Tomatoes and voice their opinion, it's still going to be roughly 26%. It's not gonna sway in the other direction to suddenly 70% approved. Okay, because the reason why is because your logic implies that people only come and vote on Rotten Tomatoes when they don't like something, and that's not true. But first of all, that's not how Rotten Tomatoes works. And secondly, we can look at any other television series that has been well received by audiences, such as Stranger Things, or The Orville, or Red Dwarf, or Star Trek: The Next Generation. Any of these television shows that were well received by audiences, and they have high scores on Rotten Tomatoes. If we go by your logic that it's only 6,000 people and this is not an accurate representation of the whole, then we must also apply that logic to Stranger Things, the shows that have high scores. In which case, if Stranger Things has like a 93% approval rating, well, it's only 6,000 people, and this is not an accurate representation of the whole. So does that mean that the show actually sucked, and it's just these select few people who got on there and gave it praise? So this is what frustrates me about these people that are making arguments in regards to this, is almost all of their arguments rely on a double standard. So your argument only works if we, in this particular context, in this situation where the score is extremely low. Okay, another argument that I'm hearing in defense of this is that it's just a bunch of bot accounts. It's not real people. It's Rotten Tomatoes is just a place where people can create a bunch of bot accounts and go vote something down because they didn't like it. Okay, I will grant that I'm sure a certain percentage of those reviews are probably not legit. They're probably just bot accounts. However, that doesn't mean that it's only those who voted it down, because I've seen a lot of 5-star reviews there. If you go click on their screen name, their profile is no longer available. So and they didn't have a profile picture, or their account had just been set up. So I think this particular argument is both sides are guilty. But bot accounts, that's not a valid argument for this low score. Okay, because either you have to, you're saying that bot accounts targeted Doctor Who in particular to give it this exceptionally low score, or bot accounts targeted Doctor Who to give it a low score, and bot accounts targeted other programs that got high scores to give them a high score, like Stranger Things and The Orville. Let's be generous and say that 20% of the 78% that disapproved of Doctor Who this season, let's be generous and say 20% of those are bot accounts. Okay, that still leaves you with a 58% disapproval from legitimate viewers. The discrepancy is so wide between people who disapproved and people who approved. There is no spinning this to level things out. You people are just in denial. You people are in denial. Okay, just you're going to have to admit the facts. You're just going to have to admit, because the other thing that pisses me off is these people that dismiss the score on Rotten Tomatoes because the score is so low. These same people will turn around and if the score is exceptionally high, like it is for the Orville and Stranger Things, they'll use that as a bragging point. So again, you're using a double standard. So if the score is exceptionally low, it's only 6,000 people, and it's just a bunch of bot counts, and it's not a really accurate measure of what people think. But when it's a high score, everything is legit. It was no bots. It's a very accurate depiction of what people thought of it. It's a double standard, and it drives me up the wall. Okay, because I don't know if I don't think you people realize that it's a double standard. I think a lot of you have just heard this argument from other people who didn't understand how it works, and then you're just parroting what they said, because a little logic and reason cuts it to pieces. None of these arguments fly, okay, because they all rely on a double standard. They only work as arguments in this particular context when we're addressing the Doctor Who score on Rotten Tomatoes. But if we turn your argument around and apply it to something who had a high score on Rotten Tomatoes, like Stranger Things or the Orville, either you have to admit that those shows actually sucked, and it's just that the bots and the few people that reviewed it gave it exceptionally high scores, and it's still not an accurate representation of what people thought of those shows, or you have to admit that you're using a double standard. You're applying it's bots and people who just hate Doctor Who or want to see it fail. It's that situation on Doctor Who, but when it's Stranger Things and Orville, they're all legitimate reviews. There's no bots, and everything's hunky-dory. In which case, and I'll bet you anything you want that if this season of Doctor Who had received a high audience score, let's say 98%, 90%, something along in there, we wouldn't be seeing this. Okay, not one of these people would have been saying anything about bots or it's only 6,000 people, or you wouldn't have been hearing any of that. They would have been citing that as a positive. They would have been bragging about that as a positive towards this season of Doctor Who. The only reason why these people are coming out now and making these ridiculous, pathetic arguments for the low score on Rotten Tomatoes is because they're butthurt that it wasn't the overwhelming success that they so desperately wanted it to be. They wanted the first female Doctor and the mega SJW infused storytelling. They wanted that to be more popular and more successful than anything that's ever come before. Audiences don't give a shit about that, okay? People who sit down to watch Doctor Who are not sitting down to be sermonized on politics, okay? They want to be entertained. They want to watch 50 minutes of a quality science fiction television series. You can infuse it with politics by all means, but you can't do that at the expense of the story and the plot, okay? And that's what Doctor Who did, okay? That's why the Orville is doing so well, is because it's well produced, it's well written, it's well directed, it has quality storytelling that has political messages intertwined in it, okay? The political messaging is not at the forefront, because the main goal with the Orville is to tell a good science fiction story. I wanted to like this season. I wanted to like Jodie Whittaker's Doctor. I wanted this to be a success. Okay, not a victory for feminists or anything, but I wanted it to be an improvement over the Moffat era, over the sloppy writing and the directing that was in the Moffat era. And I wanted to enjoy Doctor Who again. I wanted to be able to sit down and enjoy a season of Doctor Who the way I can sit down and enjoy a season of the classic series. So it's not that I wanted it to fail. Okay, I didn't want to not like this any more than I didn't want to not like The Last Jedi. Okay, but it is what it is. If you present something that was poor in quality and people didn't like it, you can't employ damage control afterwards and try to convince those people that what they actually saw was good and they're just confused about it. People know what they like. and you're only going to disgruntle these fans more by trying to convince them otherwise.